in reference to my video where I was talking about liturgical changes. He said, so it's not the same church that Christ instituted. That nowhere logically follows from anything I've ever said, ever. To recognize that there have been some changes to the liturgy is not to say that the church that Christ instituted no longer exists. They are not the same. He says it has been changed. No, the essential constitution of the church has not been the same. You are assuming that every particular thing in the liturgy is essential to the constitution of the church, and that's incorrect. He says, I've always heard the church hasn't changed its traditions since Christ instituted it. I would recommend that you Google what's called equivocation, because this is what you're doing. The word tradition, sacred tradition specifically, is going to be that tradition that is handed on to us by divine revelation. And yes, that cannot change. And that is what people are talking about when they say the church hasn't changed and the sacred tradition hasn't changed. They're talking about that which has been revealed by God. There is a difference between sacred tradition and ecclesiastical traditions, liturgical traditions. Those are subject to change. Those are post-apostolic. Those are post-revelation. Those are not essential to the constitution of the church. Those are different kinds of traditions. Not all traditions are the same. Not all traditions are created equal, if you will. So what you're doing is you're conflating ecclesial traditions and liturgical traditions with sacred tradition itself. It's actually something that a lot of people do. It's even something that a lot of Catholics do. I actually saw Schneider, who was promoting heresy, who said that the Pope actually can't change the Missal of 62, which again is heresy according to Trent and Vatican I. And he says he can't because this is actually part of divine revelation. And again, that's heretical. And it's also equivocating on the notion of sacred tradition. He actually thinks that all of the aspects of the Missal of 62 are somehow equal to sacred tradition. Absolute heresy. And he equates it to the creed. Imagine that. By the way, I did see Strickland also reasserted that very position. Again, that is heretical. Ironic, because both Schneider and Strickland have accused Pope Francis of teaching heresy. And yet, they're promoting heresy. Interesting the way that works. All right, I digress. So I hope that helps with this particular question.